I am narrating the presentation for the course Management, course code 22509, Unit Outcome 4. Explain the main provisions of the Workmen Compensation Act. Dear students, in this presentation, we are going to learn the main provisions of Workmen Compensation Act. Objectives. To know the objectives, scope and coverage of the Act. To understand the major features of the Act. To have knowledge about employer's liability in case of occupational diseases, means diseases occur due to the environment in the industry. Able to calculate the amount of the compensation under the Act, means if there is an accident or if there is an occupational disease, then this gives the formula to calculate the amount of the compensation. And to understand the procedure of medical introduction. The Workmen Compensation Act 1923 has been renamed as the Employees Compensation Act 1923. The Act was amended subsequently in 1933, 38 and recently in 2009. Before this Act, it was a lengthy and costly process to calculate the amount of the compensation if the worker is injured or he is suffered from the occupational diseases. Originally, the Act covers the worker of a certain specific industries, not drawing more than rupees 300 per month. But now, the scope of this Act is very wide and now every industry is implementing this Act. Major features of the Act. The workers or his dependent like wife, father, mother, daughter or son can claim the compensation if the injury has been caused by an accident during the work, provided that he was not under the influence of alcoholic drink or any drugs. The accident was not due to his willful disobedience of the rules such as non-wearing of helmet, non-wearing of safety glass, non-wearing of the gloves or overriding the machine with high speed feed and depth of the cut. The amount of the compensation depend upon the type of the injury and nature of the disablement, like cutting of the finger, hands, legs, or injury to the eyes. All the accidents are to be brought to the notice of the labor commissioner or the factory inspector. If there is any claim, then employer shall deposit the amount of the compensation with the labor commissioner within 30 days. Finally, the labor commissioner will hand over the amount to the dependents or the worker. Important definitions. Dependent means a widow, a minor son, unmarried daughter, which are wholly or partially dependent on the earning of the worker at the time of his or her death. Minor means a person below 18 years of age. Partial disablement means disablement of temporary nature and which reduces the earning capacity of the employee. Means in a shift, if he is producing the 100 parts, now he can able to produce only 80 parts or 50 parts. Total disablement means he cannot able to produce any part for temporary period or for the permanent period. Workman means a worker working in the organization. Employer's liability for the compensation. The employee is liable to compensate if the injury has been caused by an accident and has resulted in employee's death or permanent or temporary disablement. The employee is not liable to pay the compensation if the injury is just occur for 3 days and after 3 days he is being recovered to resume the duty. The injury is caused by the accident when he is in alcoholic condition or has taken any drugs. The injury is caused due to his willful disobedience of the rules, like he is operating the machine at the higher speed, feed and depth of the cut than the recommended settings. The injury is caused due to the removal of any safety guards like removal of the helmet, safety gloves or glass. Employer's liability in case of the occupational diseases. If the diseases is an occupational diseases means diseases occur due to the working environment in the industry. Like diseases occur due to the fumes, welding fumes, or diseases occur due to the humidity like asthma, etc. The list of the occupational diseases is contained in the Schedule 3 of the Act. Schedule 3 is divided into three parts, that is Part A, Part B and Part C. Any claim for compensation in case of occupational diseases means diseases due to the working environment in the industry. In Part A, no specific period of the employment is necessary. Means if he is working for 1 or 2 days or 10 days and he is suffered from occupational diseases, then the claim should be there and employer should submit the compensation to the worker. For diseases in Part B, the workman must to continue the work for the period of 6 months. And for diseases in Part C, the period of employment would be such as it is specified by the central government. Amount of compensation. Where death results from the injury, an amount equal to 40% of monthly salary of the employee multiplied by the relevant factor which is mentioned in the Schedule 4 of this Act or rupees 20,000 rupees, whichever is more. Where there is a permanent disablement from the result of the injury, an amount equal to 50% of the monthly wages multiply by the relevant factor as mentioned in the Schedule 4 or an amount of rupees 24,000, whichever is more. A payment of the compensation shall be handed over by the employer to the Labour Commissioner and Labour Commissioner will finally deposit the amount of the compensation to the employee or the dependent. An employer of course can give the advance to any dependent on account of the compensation not exceeding rupees 100 rupees. Notice and claim of the accident. An employee injured in an accident should give in written notice to the employer about the accident. The purpose of giving notice is to enable the employer to check the fact of the accident, that why this accident is occurred, whether this accident is due to the overriding of the speed, feed and depth of cut of the machine or disobedience of the employee or anything else, or the machine is under the maintenance, etc. These help to reduce the consequences of the future accidents. The notice should be contain a particular of the employee, date of accident and causes of the accident. Claim for compensation must be made within the 2 years of the occurrence of the accident or within the 2 years of the death of the employee. In case of the occupational diseases, the period of 2 years is counted from the day of the disease or day of the disablement of the employee. Where the commissioner receives information about the fatal accident means every accident should be noticed to the commissioner and he may send notice to the employer asking the why this accident is occurred, why the death of the employee is there and whether the compensation is being deposited to the employee or the dependent or not. Medical examination. An injured worker who has submitted a notice of the accident to the employer shall present himself for the medical examination or the medical board if the employer wants. Such an offer should be free of cost and the employee should be present in front of the medical panel within 3 days. If an employer does not present him for the medical examination, his right for compensation will be suspended or cancelled. He will get full compensation only after he is providing sufficient cause for not presenting himself for the medical examination, that why he is not present at a time he was suffering from some illness, he was not able to walk, etc. If an employee whose right to compensation has been suspended dies without presenting himself for the medical examination, then the commissioner may direct the employer to deposit the amount of the compensation to the dependent. Conclusions. The Workmen Compensation Act come into the force from 1st July 1924. The act aimed to provide workman or the worker and their dependent, means wife, son, father or mother or daughter, to some relief in case of the accident arising during the employment and causing the death or temporary or permanent disablement, because there is no any earning person in the family of the worker, so it is must to compensate the worker's family. That impose legal liability upon the employer to provide the compensation to the employee when he suffer from death, physical disabilities or occupational diseases. The amount of the compensation depend upon the result of the injury, means exactly what type of the injury is there, whether there is a death, temporary or permanently disablement. Thank you very much.